you're going to count at least 9 different situations where David had to run because he knew Saul was coming. Saul threw a javelin at him twice. Saul tried to get him to run up, and he prompted, talking about, I'll let him marry my daughter, and want him to run up into the Philistines. And it said he did it hoping that David would be killed. He chased David. David run. That's when David had got some of that bread from the priest, Ahimelech. Saul get mad when he find out they helped David and say, kill him, because they helped David and knew I was after him. David, men had 2-3 opportunities to kill Saul, and David said, yo, I'm not going to touch the Lord's anointing. But David was anointed. But he not going to touch an anointed servant of God. How many people in here would have that same judgment? Because we would look at the man's evil and say, you're not anointed, wouldn't we? Well, and I believe it's 1 John chapter 2. It talks about, let us go there right quick. Go to 1 John chapter 2. It's something that if we are the servants of Christ, that has to be on every one of us. And let's look at this right quick. 1 John 2 and verse 26 and 27. 1 John 2, verse 26 and 27. Go ahead.
These things have I written unto you concerning them that seduce you. But the anointing which ye have received of him abideth in you. And ye need not that any man teach you, but as the same anointing teacheth you of all things, and is true, and is no lie, and even as it hath taught you, ye shall abide in him.
Now, what I'm talking about here is the anointing spirit. How have we all agreed earlier that Peter said we are a royal priesthood. How could you be a priesthood without being anointed? The anointing on us is the spirit. Just like that oil on the heads of Aaron and his sons was a symbolism of the spirit covering them from head to toe. Didn't it say that like the anointing oil that was poured on Aaron's head that ran down in his beard all into the skirt of his garment? That means it started at his head and just went all down into his clothes, kind of symbolically covering him. Isn't that what the Spirit's supposed to do? The covering of the Spirit of God. So we all consider and hope that we have the anointing on us that's going to keep us. Once Saul was anointed, even though David had the ability to kill him. As a matter of fact, when Saul had killed them priests, he had that Edomite who was willing to stand up and start slaying Levites. One of them escaped to David and told him what happened. David said, okay, don't worry, you stay here with me because you will have safeguard here. You mean to tell me David couldn't have killed Saul? Saul wasn't no match for David if David wanted to go after him. But David's heart was like, no. Why? You know why? I perceive now, I could be wrong, but I perceive at least that that was still his brother. And he was not going to kill his brother who had been anointed the first king in Israel. Even though his son showed him mad love, him and Jonathan was tight. Remember when David first joined Saul's army, it said Jonathan gave David his own sword, his breastplate, and everything, gave him his princely garment and everything. From the beginning, Jonathan showed the love he had for David. But when his father tried to kill him time after time, he said to him, all right, man, I'm not going to mess with you. You know what I'm saying? It's all good. You come back. David trusted him and come back, and he tried to get David again. There was a mercy in David. And because of that mercy, David received mercy. You know why? You know when David received mercy? When David did what he did to Uriah the Hittite, shouldn't he, according to Torah, have died to death? When Saul tried to murder David, should not Saul have died to death? according to the letter of the Torah. Yeah. They both should have died according to the Torah, but there was a mercy that was afforded them. And I believe even though David did something so wicked at that one time he did it, the Lord said, he said to Nathan, he said, I have sinned against the Lord. He said, David, you not going to die. The Lord have already forgiven you, and you not going to die. That's why I have a problem with the people who try to speak against Yeshua, not condemning the harlot. But we was already showed by the Lord that he have a mercy that's greater than even the judgment that's written in the letter. Let's look at this. Go to Matthew chapter 5. And we got about 3 more, brothers and sisters. Matthew 5. And brother, when you get there, would you read verses 40 to 48? Now, this is after what people call the Beatitudes and all that. He made all these promises, letting them know, this is who blessed, this who shall inherit the kingdom. And he started telling them how to deal with the truth and the spirit of the law. And he gets down to verse 40. Go ahead and read that. Read that.
If any man, you said 40, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If any man will sue thee at the law and take away thy coat, let him have thy cloak also.
So isn't this you suffering? Instead of going to law with your brother in front of the unjust, you rather just gonna suffer the wrong. You want to sue me? Well, here, man, just take it. Isn't that Christ telling you to suffer the person trying to sue you? He didn't say if they was right or wrong in suing you. He just said somebody want to sue you at the law. All right. And take away your coat. Give him your cloak too. Suffer it. Suffer the defrauding. Look at the next verse. Go ahead.
And whosoever shall compel thee to go a mile, go with him twain.
This is what Christ saying out of his own mouth. And he's saying this to all these on the mount, that he's telling them, I've come to bring you this salvation. Brothers and sisters, how much mercy and faith is in us that when your brother asks you something or your sister asks you something, you don't just do that, but you go to double effort for them in what they ask. Why is this being brought up? Because we talking about community. If this spirit and this mindset isn't in us, it's going to be the worst thing you ever did. It's going to be a bad experience for us all. Because you're going to complain. How you going to be in community of love complaining about how people don't do nothing for each other? How did that exist? So your brother asked you to go a mile, he said go 2. So he's basically telling you, look, if your brother or your sister needs you to do something, and notice how many people notice that you're not always, at least more than half the time, you're not asked for some assistance during times of when you look like, yeah, I'm just sitting here waiting for someone to need me. Ain't it when you got other plans and you got other things going on? He didn't say when somebody came and asked you to walk a mile, you were just waiting, sitting around like, man, somebody asked me to walk a mile with him. You got a life. You got things going on, and somebody then came up, yo, can you walk this mile with me? Ooh, a mile, huh? What was that one comedian said? He was talking about, you know how comedians are. He was talking about the difference between, you know how they always try to make that contrast difference, like, man, black people and white people different. And he said, man, you ask one of your white friends, you know, you in a hard situation, you say, yo, man, can I get some money? I'm in a situation, I need to borrow some money. He said, they like, oh, here you go. He said, you got enough? You need more? Right? Then he said, you go to ask a brother the same question, and he said, they like, man. He said, look, man, yo, let me tell you about my money, man. He said, first of all, let me tell you about my money, man. I work hard for my money, man. I almost started not to give it to you. He said, oh man, keep the $5, dude. Goodness, yo, that was funny. Like, it's a whole story and a whole beat around the bush. So at the end of the day, now that was a comic trying to be funny, but it was based off of something he see in life that his eyes see. And what is that? That when you come to your people and ask for help and relief, you get a big story on why they possibly shouldn't help you. He didn't say give a story. He just said go with your brother. Now still, everything is still with a balance. So at the end of the day, it's trying to give us the idea that we need to be ready to assist and to help our brothers and our sisters when they call brothers and sisters. Go ahead.
Give to him that asketh thee, and from him that would borrow of thee, turn not thou away.
So, how many people do we turn away that will borrow of us? See, brothers and sisters, he's not just talking about your brethren in the word. Because he gonna name all of this, and then he gonna get to the end, and he's gonna say, verse 46.
For if ye love them which love you, what reward have ye? Do not even the publicans the same? Mm-hmm. Keep going? Mm-hmm. Okay. And if ye salute your brethren only, what do ye more than others? Do not even the publicans so?
Now, remember, he gonna say here, he gonna talk about God, which is in heaven, our Father. He make the sun to rise on the evil and the good. So you would say that, well, God loved the good, so you see why he give them sunshine. Well, I don't know why he give the evil sunshine too. So when you look at it, these things he's talking about. You see someone in need, someone ask of you, give it to them. Someone asks to borrow, if you have it, of course. Help them. When you help those who not your brethren, you get even more glory. You know why? Because the Father in heaven get glory. Because we can't think that people, when we help people, it's always about I, Zadok, me, the individual, helped you. But what if you do something for somebody and they give the Father glory? You don't get nothing as far as some outward show of this, that, and the third. You're not helping them because of how you feel. You helping them because this is the righteousness of God who feed the just and the unjust. He feed evil people, babies. And when I say evil people, I'm going to be careful to not exclude myself out the group. Just talk about what I'm not, and then he showed me what I am. But those who walk contrary to what truth is, they still get to eat. So when you're supposed to help people, are you supposed to just be helping those who you're comfortable with? Or are you supposed to be even having a hand to help those who you're not too comfortable with? That's on every individual to ask for themselves. This is not our gospel. It's not about how I feel. It's not about how you feel. I'm talking about what we just read. And if that kind of mercy is there with us as we do this, that will heap coals on the head of those who may hate the community, who may detest what you're even trying to do. But when they needed relief, and the place that God had that relief come from was this community of people you speak against all the time, that will do something that's between that person and God. So he not asking you to do it just for you. He asking you to do it because that's what he would have done. He fed a whole bunch of people on the side of a mountain who he told the next day, y'all only looking for me because I fed y'all with fish and bread. He knew it when he was feeding them. You think he had just thought of that the next day? He knew it when he was feeding them. He knew everybody on that mountain wasn't there for him. They was there to see a miracle because they didn't believe. And he gave them one and told them, but still he gave it to them. So what I'm saying is, if we're going to be community, what kind of community? And what we're trying to practice is basically like something what you would call on the lines of like democratic socialism. because we don't, Christ is our king. But among us, and supposedly,